Hello and welcome to the Navy Blue Corner. I'm Ian, joined as always by my good mate Lockie, and we have done the match build-up for Friday night already. That's up on YouTube. It's up in podcast form, wherever you listen to that. But this is where we get to relax a little bit, have a bit more fun. We are going to create a combined best 23, that's 22 and a sub, featuring those available for selection to play this week against Sydney, and featuring the 22 who last played a final for Carlton 10 years ago in 2013, coincidentally, ironically, against the Swans again. So it's going to be interesting. That is the makeup of this. So to get a bit more explanation in this, you can't select a Zach Williams. You can't select a Jack Silvani because they're not available to play this week. Conversely, if someone's on the list from 2013 but didn't play in that game against Sydney, you can't wheel them out and chuck them in the team. And I'll go through that list in a second. But Lockie, are you excited to take a trip down memory lane?
I'm excited. Like I was saying before we hit record, I'm probably more nervous. This was an anxiety building exercise putting this together. Like, I'm really worried that I'm going to misremember guys, either positive or negatively.
Yeah.
And you're just going to absolutely shoot me down. Like, I don't know. You know, maybe you have stronger opinions on Tom Bell than me. We'll see.
No, it's going to be interesting. I mean, just like seconds before we hit the record button, we realized I think we both had forgotten Sam Doherty existed and he wasn't in either of our teams. And that was a big issue. So what I want to get from you guys as well, I want you to play along. So if you're watching on YouTube, throughout this episode, whenever it is, get your best 23 combined from the errors. I want to see it in the comments. If you're listening in podcast form, head over to the socials at Navy Blue Corner, wherever you interact with us. Drop us your combined 23 because it's a fun exercise. It's a trip down memory lane. I'm keen to get into it. So let me run you through the players who played in that 2013 semi-final because you know who is available this week. This is the tricky part. I'll go through, I believe it is in jumper number order. We've got Andrew Walker, Mark Murphy, Bryce Gibbs, Chris Judd, Cade Simpson, Robbie Warnock, Mitch Robinson, Chris Yarran, big old Brock McLean, Eddie Betts, Lockie Henderson, Andrew McInnes, which is an interesting name. Forgot he existed. Armfield, Bell, Scotland, Waite, Daigan, Ed Curnow. So there's a chance you could pick. I don't know if you're allowed to have him in twice. Could you have 2013 Ed Curnow and 2023 Ed Curnow, or do you have to pick between the one? We'll maybe get to it to see if that does happen. Jeffy Garlett, Jamison, Casbolt, and Zach Tui to round it out. But before we jump in, before we get any spoilers, Lockie, I need to know from you right now. Who was your stiffest to miss out from this team? I want one from 2013, one from 2023. Without giving away too much, who were your, they should have made it, but they didn't from both eras?
Oh, my God. This is sickening. This is sickening.
It's tough. And when you are dropping your 23, in the comments or on the socials, let me know who was the stiffest that missed as well. Who were you umming and ahhing with? I'll love an explanation to go along with the team.
I think this is a beautiful exercise because I think there will be a very wide range of opinions on all these things. And, you know, it's such a weird balance of like rose-colored glasses for the guys of the past versus like the immediacy bias that we have of this current team. Because I just think that everyone in this current team is like obviously an all-Australian talent. My stiffest, I'm scared to say it. He played every game in 2013. Zach Tui.
Oh, geez, we're already going to have the same team because he is my stiffest from 2013.
Really?
I wanted him in there because genuinely, like, it was one of the better players around that time. However, right now, the easiest almost to select, I think, was the defense, just because when you look at the team right now, it looks so good. Because we've got the same there, I might deliver my 2023 stiffest, and then I'll throw it over to you because he probably should be in there position-wise. but I've maybe had to shoehorn some other players in his position that I rate a little bit higher. So unfortunately,
Okay.
the stiffest I reckon to miss out from my current Carlton team would be Blake Acres, who does
Wow.
not get a spot in this
Okay.
22 or 23. Lockie, yours.
Interesting. I thought you would be a stickler for
Mm.
who was taking the wing position. So that surprises me. For me, it's George Hewitt. I couldn't
Ooh, okay.
find
Yeah.
a spot for, sadly. Love him to death. But
A lot of midfielders.
there's some good mids rolling around when you bring these two teams together.
I absolutely love it. So let's get in.
Yikes.
Team reveal.
I'm really scared.
Give me your team, Lockie. I'm keen to go through it.
So
And
we'll
explain why
first.
as well, because there's obviously going to be guys that are missing. When you were making these selections, if there is a guy that you were thinking about, like a Zach Tui, go through and explain why you chose someone over that. I really love the deep, thought-out explanations.
Well, that's the thing. Let me just put the message out to listeners. I didn't spend 10 hours on this. This is probably a 15-minute job. So if I haven't thought one of these things through, then we'll either find out now or I'll find out in the comments. So I appreciate that. You said that the defense was the easiest to pick, and I kind of agree, but that may not mean that we have the same. For me, in the back line, I guess if we talk about like we do when we are picking the team for the week, the 7 defenders. Yeah. Is that how you've kind of thought about this?
100%. I love a team structure, so I've gone very similar in it. My structure, just I butt in because I always do.
No, this is how it should be.
I always go the defensive 7. I kind of go a forward 7, and then my midfield plus. I normally have 2 midfielder dynamic-ish players there. Then obviously the sub. That's how I tend to do it for team balance. But it's hard in this circumstance. Sometimes do you have to change up that forward mix because you've maybe got some midfielders that can rest there. But I think defense is definitely the big one that it's almost the easiest to just say, okay, 7 and let's go.
Okay, I agree. Well, we'll see if we can get some differences here. So for me, out of those 7, I've got 4 from the current 2023 team.
Big.
So for me, that's Weeders, of course.
Yep.
AA next year, as well as Sard and Newey across halfback.
Yep.
And then my 4th is McGovern. I think that he, as an interceptor, remains in there. Cool. Just keep looking at your facial expression as I go through these. Then my 3 from 2013 are Cade Simpson, best and fairest winner.
Yep.
Andrew Walker, remember him as just like hitting like just an unbelievable year in 2013, like just brought it all back together. And then the man as we live and breathe, Michael Jamison.
Michael Jamison.
That
is the greatest
in there as the other tall
of all time. Just quietly, greatest ad of all time. I don't know if the guy who did that was a Baggers supporter, because that is one of the most quotable things of all time, and he's become a legend almost because of that, but because of his footballing ability. I will say, and maybe we've got, I like it. I do like it. All those players that you have named are in my team, just not necessarily in the same positions, which I like.
You've got Jamo
around
in the ruck.
I'll go through my back 7.
Please
have gone Mitch McGovern as my interceptor.
Yep.
Jamison at fullback, Wiedering, he's the other big key defender. And what I love so much, and it's probably the one thing I wish we kind of had in the team currently, is a real lockdown key defender to allow Wiedering to just roll off his man a little bit more. Because while Wiedering can do that, be that one-on-one, just the thought of Wieders being a little bit that second or third key responsibility, I think it would just be such a better team for it. And Jamison never had some help down there. So I like the idea of doing that. So those are my 3 kind of big calls.
Cop that, McInnes.
Sorry, mate. Sorry, Henderson as well, if you're down there. Newman was in my back pocket. It was kind of him and Tui for that role. But I mean, what Newman's done this year, it's maybe there's recency bias. Maybe it's because Zach Tui left us, but Nick Newman takes that out for me. Sardi, obviously, and this is where I've given Doc the starting role back in halfback.
Ah, okay.
We'll get to the midfield at some stage, but there were so many midfielders to choose from. He's going to be in that position. However, there is, maybe with some versatility, opportunity for him to float onto that wing. My seventh, and someone from that 2013 team, one of my favorite Carlton players of all time, it's Heath Scotland. Of course it is. What an absolute player. Has to be there. And that's what I'm excited for. What do you think?
I like it. I like it. I mean, there's no conflict yet, but the night is young. I think it's your turn to do a reveal.
I reckon I'm going to go forward line and we'll save the midfield for later. That's going to be the real contentious part. Going to be the contentious part. Forward line.
I think we'll have this quite different, by the way, but let's hear it.
I do as well, because firstly, Andrew Walker is on the half forward line for me. I know he's played a bit of both.
Okay.
For me, I just saw so many defensive players. You could have thrown Tui in the back. There was a few others as well I was debating. Yep. Could you throw Simpson down there as well? So I wanted Walker forward of the ball. I think he played his best football there. I know at this time of period, he tended to be a little bit more in defense, but I'm looking at this team. I need a high half forward to stretch things, another marking target inside 50 to complement the others. So Walker's in there. Okay. Jack Martin is also across the half forward line. Is a similar-ish player, got that X factor. The two big talls are Harry and Charlie. Sorry, Levi, you haven't managed to fit into that. The Smalls was a big, interesting part for it. We've obviously got quite a few in the current team. This is where another stiff player has missed out. Always has not made the cut for me. I've gone Eddie Betts. I've gone Jeffy Garlett. And in that seventh place, there were so many names floated. Do I go another midfielder? Do I get a hybrid that can play a bit of wing, bit of midfield, bit of pace? And I went this man, and maybe my team's too tall. Maybe I've gone way too tall, but I like his flexibility forward, down back, and I need a second ruckman in this team. So I've gone big Jared Waite as the last forward into my team. And maybe when we get to the sub, I can explain it a little bit more. But watching the highlights back, he was such a key part of our team at that stage, clunking them. And because he's a bit more athletic, maybe he becomes a bit more of that Richo on the wing kind of thing, where he gets to stretch the team that way as a high half forward, knowing how athletic he can be. But I don't know. It was hard not to put him into this squad, and I like the idea of a bit of flexibility. What is your forward line, and what do you think of that, by the way?
Very interesting. Yeah, you've definitely thrown me with that one, but I respect it. We loved Big Jared back in the day. Maybe you remember him even more fondly than I do, which is that's fair enough.
I've forgotten the suspensions and the injuries, the free kicks given away. That's all disappeared.
That's fair. That's fair. No, we are pretty similar, and maybe a guy that I haven't got in my team is stiffer than anticipated because he's in yours. But obviously, I had Charlie and Harry as well, as well as Jack Martin. I thought that might have been a contentious one, but we're aligned.
So did I. But
Garlett as well. I've got him in there, but I've gone Yaron over Betts. When I think back to 2013, I remember that as the time where Betts just wasn't playing like the player that we hoped that he would be. Like that seemed like that. It felt like that was the year where it was like, okay, is he actually, is he going to be that guy for us moving forward? Especially when we had all three of those guys. Any comment?
Look, I will somewhat agree with you to that extent. And that's the hard thing of, I guess, picking the year. And that's the fun part, that I'm happy for you to hold me accountable in this, where the next year was when he went to Adelaide. That was his last year with us. That's when you get the controversial, we bring in Daisy as a somewhat, I guess, replacement, salary cap wise, marquee player wise. And
Yep.
I was of the opinion I didn't want Eddie Betts to go, but when it sounded as if the murmurs were he wanted this big money deal, that
Yes, I
well,
remember
you've just
this.
probably had your worst season in a long time for Carlton, and you're now wanting all this money. What's happening? Because have you lost
Yes.
it? What's going on? Is he going to be that marquee small forward? And part of me thought maybe this is a good deal because is he going to drop off a cliff? And maybe
Yeah.
the rose tinted part of this is he didn't drop off. He just had a little bit of poor form in that season. Maybe there were more factors for it. So why? Maybe it's biased me having him in there off the 2013 form. But
Totally.
if I'm playing a team and I've got Eddie Betts in it, I just think you're getting
Yeah.
I think he's that number one small forward out of everyone, and you've just got to have Eddie Betts there for me. But Yaron's interesting as well because I probably would have seen him a bit more as a defender at this stage as well.
Yeah, I
But why
know.
did you like him in the forward line a bit more over Eddie Betts?
Well, I know that he still did spend some
Mm,
time there in 2013. I don't know. Like I was the same with you. I was kind of comparing, I guess, those three smalls with Motlop and Owies from this year. And I'm like, yeah, I still kind of trying to take my recency bias out of it, have those three all
mm,
above the two current guys. Yeah, I don't know. Maybe I'm a bit soured as well, just with the whole him leaving thing as well.
mm.
I remember being a bit more passionate at the time, being like, I don't know, like I don't know, like good riddance. Like if you don't want to
Oh,
be here, like
yeah.
you know,
Mm.
like you know, it just
No,
felt like a bit of a weird time. So I don't
mm.
think of that time really fondly, like 2013 per
That's
se.
understandable. It's understandable. I understand where
Yeah.
you're coming from. I think it was a tough period for us where we didn't know what was going on, and then Nick comes in, and there's a lot of
Oh,
change
Mick.
at the club. Things going to get better, things going to get worse, and there was a lot of emotions flying around for a lot of players. And when a guy's maybe demanding more money, doesn't seem like we're going to pay it. He's happy to go somewhere else. Definitely
Yeah.
does change your opinion. So you had Harry, you had Charlie, Martin, Garlett, Yaron. Who is the other on field in case I missed it? And then who is on your bench?
So it gets a little bit weird, and I've done a bit of a you thing here. And I don't mind Sammy Walsh starting on that
Yeah,
half forward, moving up
I
the
like it.
ground kind of role. So I've got him there. And then as my seventh guy, you've got Jared Waite. I've got Lockie Henderson there.
Yeah, okay, that
And
makes sense.
it's a bit of like a versatility thing. I toyed with having him as the sub.
Mm,
But as I look back, he was third in the BNF. Again, he played every game. Like just seemed like it was one of the best years really of his career. So he deserved to be in there. And, he can be
mm,
that third tall forward. We can chuck him down back if we need to. Maybe swing Gov forward. Like there's so many different things that we can do here if we need to.
mm.
So I feel good about that.
Are you worried at all about it being a little too tall? I know that was my worry with the Jared Waite. I was
Yeah.
able to think about it in the context of maybe that wing role because he does move quite a lot. And I guess this is maybe the disagreement
Yeah.
we'll have in this of I would maybe take more versatility with a Jared Waite, thinking he's a bit more
Mm.
athletic, can move a little bit more, a little bit quicker. Where did you see Henderson, and if it was
Mm.
too tall at all, was that a consideration?
Definitely a consideration. The fact that I'm rolling with just the one ruckman made
Yeah.
me feel better about it. Like if I was going to be going with the two rucks plus
Mm,
Charlie and Harry plus then
yeah.
like a guy like Henderson, then that feels like a bit much. But yeah, look, I'm not so stoked that Harry's going to be doing the second rucking, but I think we're going to be fine with this team. We're going to win the flag anyway.
Oh, that's exciting. That is exciting. I'm going to throw again straight back to you because we've
Yikes.
gone a little bit back and forth. Give me your midfield and rounding out that
Mm.
bench.
So my wings, I have got Blake Acres in my team,
Big.
and Heath on the other wing. I'm with you.
Like it.
You got to have Scotty in this team.
Mm,
Oh boy, midfielders. So then I have 5 mids:
mm.
Cripps, Murphy, Judd, Chera, and Doherty.
Ooh, that is the interesting one. There is someone that I
There
can
is
think
someone.
of that has definitely missed out there. And have you gone big Robbie Warnock in the ruck?
Oh God, no, I have not. You scared me there for a second. Like I feel like I was being
I've forgotten
gaslit. Like
someone.
I must have chosen Robbie. No, I've gone with TDK as
Yeah.
my ruck. Yeah.
No, I like it. I was watching the highlights back of, I believe it was that one and not the other game. It's hard. I was watching them back to back, but there was a moment where he clunks one, big Robbie Warnock in the forward line, close to goal, and he's lining up, and the commentary is, he's always a good kick in front of goal. And I was like, have you seen Robbie Warnock kick a set shot in front of the big sticks? What do you mean he's a reliable set shot
That's
at
a piss
goal?
take.
It was, I mean, in fairness, steps back, nails it straight through the middle. But that is reliable set shot kicker is not what I would pair up with Robbie Warnock if that was my key attribute for him. Unfortunately, he's missed out in my team. He is. I feel so bad to say that he's such a worse version of what I guess Pitt is in this. Like, you can kind of only ruck, you can't do anything else, and yeah, unfortunately, Robbie misses out. I've
He
definitely
played.
gone. Yeah,
He
go
played
for it.
88 games. How many goals?
88 games. I will go 10.
Oh, 17. 17
Okay, he's
goals.
got to be better. There you go. Very liable.
No, sorry, Robbie.
Yeah, I've gone to Koning in the ruck. That's where Jared Waite, I'm kind of going as my second ruck hybrid. Chuck him wherever you want him to, because I was worried about Harry as my second. Didn't want any of my key defenders in there. Don't want Jamo going in there with his shoulder. Waite just feels like the guy that he could just cause some absolute chaos when the ball hits the ground as well. You don't know if he's going to pick the ball up, give someone a clothesline from hell. You don't know what's going to happen with Jared Waite, and I like that kind of spice in there. I've gone Cripps in the middle, Judd and Murphy also at the centre bounce. My wings, this is where Cade Simpson is my wing. Now, very maybe similar to you, where it's like, I know Scotland, Simpson, Doherty, they can all kind of rotate that wing. They've played there quite a lot. I just love at this stage of Cade Simpson that he still had so much in his legs. And that's probably where I want him attacking the ball a little bit more from that wing role. Whereas Scotland, I just like him using the disposal from the defensive half. But obviously, we can rotate guys around. That's where Walshy is my other wing. Very stiff on Blake Acres.
Yep.
I was thinking when I first was looking at the wings, he was like, okay, pencil him in. And then when I started to look at all the other midfielders and who I was plugging in and playing, I just thought, looking at my bench, I want Chera in there. I want the man you omitted in Bryce Gibbs. I'm sorry. I'd rather all of those midfielders over Blake Acres. It goes against my wing role, but I think you got Chera, you got Walsh, you've got Gibbs, you've got Scotland, you got Doherty, you got Simpson. Can all run through that wing role if you need it. There's enough for me to cover it. And if I'm going our best players, I still think Bryce Gibbs in that period was really good for us. And he's another one that can eventually go down halfback if you need to. Plenty of rotations from these guys. There's a lot of different players in there. You obviously got Cripps and Judd as your big bulls. And then I like that you've kind of got the rest floating around that can offer something different in there. There's quite a lot of dynamicism. Like, I don't know what that word is. I've made up something.
I'm not going to help you with that.
But there's something in that. Someone will leave that in the chat, what word I was attempting to say, but very dynamic team that we've got there.
Yeah, I like that a lot. I mean,
dynamism.
I was trying dynamism. I didn't want to. Yeah,
dynamism. That's the one.
I was trying to have like my All Australian selectors hat on and be like, you know what? I'm going to pick guys in their positions. Like, yes, Bryce Gibbs, who is my sub. Just want to make that clear. Yes.
Okay.
I think that he's a better player than, like, 2013 Gibbs is a better player than current Blake Acres, but Acres is in there because he is a dead set winger. And I didn't want to just have 10 mids rolling around in different positions, but you know.
Yeah, no, that one very much makes sense. My sub was originally Dennis Armfield for.
Wow.
I have obviously, now I said original, not the final. So I just want to say that right now because I'm looking at the sub the way I look at the sub right now. Matty Cottrell is my Carlton right now. I love him as the sub. I think Armfield is a better version of Matty Cottrell, and I liked that idea of just bring me this pacey, a little bit erratic running machine, can play outside, can play half forward, change things up a little bit, bring the energy is what I want from my sub. But then when I remembered that Sam Doherty does actually exist and he needs to be in this team, I had to move this man from my halfback position and allow Doherty to come in, and that is Chris Yarran. Because very similar now to Dennis Armfield, but probably in a much better sense. You can play multiple positions, play a bit of halfback, play in the forward line. Hell, chuck him on the wing if you need to. Chuck him in the midfield. Who knows what you can do, but he's got the pace, got the energy. And with my Jared weight, I've gone way too tall. I think this is where the versatility of a Yarran, if it's not working, if the combined Sydney Swans 2013, 2023 teams getting a handle on us, we're too tall, Chris Yarran can come straight in and you can plug and play him anywhere. That is how I have gone with this team. What do you think of him as the sub?
I like it. Yeah, no, I like it. I know that you care a lot about the persona of your subs, which I respect a lot. So we've got two guys different in our 23s. That's how I'm reading it. You've got Waite and Betts, and I've got Henderson and Akers. Is that right?
Yes, I believe so. Which I'll be honest, on paper, I think I win that one a lot. Just comparing those two players, Betts and Waite over Akers and Henderson. But when you put it into the context of the team, I think that is when you maybe start to get it over me. But let us know in the comments, whose team do you prefer? Do you prefer mine? Do you prefer Lockie's? Because he will arrogantly love his. I will arrogantly, definitely, love mine, of course. Let us know who's the winner and drop them in the comments because I'm very keen to hear what you guys have come up with. Yes, Lockie, you were.
I'm sure you would have. I'm sure you would have looked at this when you were doing your extensive research on this. Yeah. But so Betts played 18 games that season. Do you remember how many goals he kicked?
Ooh, not off the top of my head. He didn't have a great year, as I said.
Yeah, that's the thing. Well, so he kicked 27 in the 18.
Still decent year.
Still decent, especially because I remember that being such a down year, and he's pretty much going at like the same rate as like our smalls do now.
Yeah.
But yeah, put some respect on finals Blake Akers. Didn't you watch his final last year that made us desperate to have him?
I did, but I think the issue is I brought in Jared Waite, who's a bit of that chaos, don't know what's going to happen. And I've kind of taken the Jared Waite, you're getting at least a ridiculous free kick against or a suspension compared to the on the full I know I'm getting from a Blake Akers. So it was a balancing act between what I want. I can't fit both of those in. I can't have too much of that energy. So I've gone with just, I don't know, randomly hit someone over the head for no reason because you've lost your cool over a boring kick out on the full.
Would you go over or under? Like, do you think over or under 0.5 acres to have an out on the full on Friday? Do you think it's more likely or not that he'll have one?
More likely. I would love to get the stats.
I kind of want to take that bet.
There should be a market for it. How many that he can have? Because he always has. There's always one. Pommy raised a good stat. I don't have the exact thing. I'd butcher it if I even attempted it. But it was something as if when he has it ridiculously early in the game with one of his first disposals, he goes on to have like the best game ever. So there is a barometer on Blake Akers' form if he gets the out on the full with one of his early touches. So there's something in that. Maybe he just needs to get it out of the way early. But if it happens in the last quarter, no, Blake has had a stinker.
Good to know. I'll keep an eye on that.
So analysing these teams, having a bit of a look now, trying to break away from the past and move towards the game on Friday night. It's going to be a lot of names you could throw out for the answer to this question. And I'm also keen to hear the listeners and the watchers' thoughts on this one. but who from that 2013 team would you love to see transported into our squad on Friday night? And what's your reasoning? Why do you want them in the current team now?
Man, there's so many.
Mm.
So many. But I think for me, it is probably going to be a midfield type that I'm going for. With maybe we differ with that. When I look at my 22 that I'd be picking going into this game, it's probably Cunningham, who's the 22nd guy that I'd be moving to the sub. So I'd be looking to replace that kind of thing. Yep. So it's probably going to be Judd or Murphy, I would say, which feels good to say. Just to be able to inject one of those guys into the midfield, just change up the mix. I'm going to say less on that. I think it kind of goes without saying. I thought about someone like Jamison, would bringing him in over Kemp, who's such a young guy. We don't know how he's going to stand up in a final. I mean, not that Jamison had a whole ton of finals experience, but, what are you going with?
Jamison was one of the names I wrote down, but wouldn't be my number one option for the reasons you touched on and I touched on earlier when talking about the team in. Look, Brody Kemp, unbelievable season, deserves to be playing in a final.
Of course he does.
Being able to release Gov as the more interceptor or Wiedering, you're just a much better team for that. Jamison was a very good footballer, and lockdown, I just love that idea. So there's a part of me that would love that, but I've gone Andrew Walker, which is maybe
I like
an interesting choice, thinking that our forward line works so well. But I don't know, we've got a lot of pressure guys at the moment. You got Owies, you've got your Fogarty, Motlop, Martin as well, but that kind of third tall in that forward line that can stretch the field. He can play in multitude of positions. I just feel like there's Andrew Walker would just fit so perfectly in this team. When he was playing for us, when he was in the forward line, it seemed as if we didn't have a lot of other targets, and he was the one that was deep and struggling a little bit to try and get the marks because you can get him outnumbered. But now that he's free, the shackles are off. I just love that idea of having that extra X-factor player. This is a team where you bring Andrew Walker in, and I think you're getting an extra couple of goals out of him, which is exciting. And then the other one I did have wasn't necessarily for the idea of, I think he fits team need. It was a sentimental one. Mark Murphy. He deserves, after everything after 2013, to play with this team and still be near the peak of your powers. I know he had that injury this season before, and that sort of derailed things. But yeah, a Mark Murphy close to his prime here, straight into our team just for experiencing it with all the guys that he still played with a couple of years ago. I think that'd be absolutely special.
Oh, yes. I'd give almost anything for that to be able to happen. My word. Yeah. Love it.
100%. So, look, to wrap this up and again, continue this gearing towards this Friday, first time in 10 years, Carlton, Sydney at the MCG. We've touched on this era of players, the 2010s, and coincidentally that it was Sydney that kicked us out of 2 of the 4 final series that we played in those 2010s. First one was in 2010, elimination final, up in Sydney, lost by 6 points with Trent Dennis Lane, out of all people, booting 4 goals to end the season. Then in 2013, the game and the team that we're talking about at the moment lost in the semi-final. Again, away, up in Sydney, lost by 24 points. It's obviously a very different team. It's obviously a very different time and game style. But how do your feelings, I guess, compare this time around to this Carlton? Our chances, not only in the game against Sydney, compared to what you were feeling in those 2010s when we were reaching the finals. And what are your kind of feelings towards the premiership tilt? Are there any similarities, differences from the team that was able to build with Judd into finals in the 2010s compared to now?
Wow. So easy to just take my mind immediately back to what I was thinking in those times, right? It's so funny as well, just to say, I know we were talking about this yesterday. I have such clearer memories of the 2010 game than I do 2013.
Yeah.
You shared
I
that
don't know
sentiment,
why.
didn't you? I don't
Yeah.
know
Well, I
either.
remember watching back the 2013 highlights and going, I don't remember half any of these
Yeah.
things. Whereas there was like little things from that 2010s game, like a tackle or something. I'm going, geez, I remember that clearly. And I still feel so animated towards certain things that
Right?
happen. Arm field, what are you doing
Isn't
bouncing
that
that ball,
weird?
mate? What are you doing?
I'm exactly the same, which is very strange. Um, maybe equally strange. When I think back to these years, I don't have this memory of ever
Mm,
thinking this might be the hottest take ever. I don't remember ever thinking that we could actually win a flag.
mm.
Do you agree with
No,
that?
that is not a hot take because that is genuinely. I will write down the note I had word for word. In the
Yeah.
2010s, I never truly believed we were capable of winning the flag.
Isn't that funny?
Yeah.
Yeah.
There
I
was
haven't
always
thought
a
about that
hope,
until you asked that question just then.
and you thought with, okay, you've got Judd, you've got this, but I don't know what the reasons were, and I'm keen to get your thoughts. But I always,
Mm.
looking at this team, maybe if we did still have a Fev in the forward line or a Josh
I
Kennedy,
was
felt
just
like
going
there
to
were
say
still
that.
pieces missing in this team. We were a key forward away, we were a key defender away. There was just something that wasn't right in the 2010s. And although there was the hope, and particularly, I think in that 2011 year, when you end up
Mhm.
playing West Coast and a kick away from playing Geelong, which a team that we matched up well against at the G. I know that was the big talking point always. And there was
Yeah.
only that one game we
Ugh.
played on that Easter Monday against Geelong in one of those years where I thought, okay, maybe this team does have the ability to win a flag. But
Yeah.
then we never really got the consistency to show me it. What were the do you have any
Yeah.
vivid reasons of why you didn't necessarily think that 2010s era Carlton could go all the way?
Hmm. I think you actually nailed it with your first comment about like the key forward. I think I feel like we were still in this era then where like all the best teams had that guy.
Mm, yeah.
Like it was still such a like I guess it was like the end of that like yeah, the full forward being like one of the most dominant guys on the field. I guess that's it. And I think you're right. Like I think the West Coast semi probably is the closest that I had to that.
Mm,
But even then I don't really remember being like in that moment, in that time, like, oh, like we would have gone to
mm,
win the flag if we had just won this game. Isn't that just so strange?
mm,
So I guess this really is the first time in my life that I've genuinely felt like we can win the premiership this
mm.
year. And I felt like that in uh yeah, in February, and I still feel like that now.
Yeah, that's definitely the difference right now. It was a lot of hope, a lot of okay, can we do it back then? And maybe an element of that for us as fans was that was the first time we'd ever seen a Carlton team
Yeah.
really play finals. We didn't know what we were capable of, what that even meant. Now, having seen a little bit more comparing, I think the team we have now is better, which is maybe the
Me
weird
too.
part of this exercise, knowing how many players I brought in from
Mm,
that 2013 team over the current squad. But I'm just so bought into this team right now, the one that
me
we
too.
have. And what I know, we still have a lot of stars right now that can win you games of football. Wiedering down back, Saad down back. You got Kerno, Mackay, Cripps, Walsh. I'm going to miss a few, but there's so many match winners that we've spoken at length, particularly in that match build up for the Sydney game.
Yep.
But even though we've got that, and we probably had elements of that in that 2010s team with just Judd to name one, it still felt like we were relying in the 2010s on the individual player, where it was
For sure.
Judd needs to step up. Okay, we need one of the smalls, like a Betts or a Garlett, need to kick the goals. There was never a
Yep.
true team buy-in. This is the team structure. Everything's working as one. Doesn't matter who you plug in and play. We're going to
Mm,
win. It was, if we get an injury to one player, we're stuffed. Whereas now, obviously, you don't want an injury. You don't want one of your key players to miss. But I just have faith that definitely this year that we can go all the way, but even in the years to come that it's there.
Yeah.
And it doesn't matter who's out on that field. There's a belief, there's a buy-in that we can get the job done. And that's the fun part about this final series and Carlton right now is, wow, I'm finally actually believing that we can win a premiership with this team.
Well said, mate. I don't have anything to add to that. 2 sleeps. Two more
sleeps to go. 2 sleeps to go. Yes. So from this, thank you for watching. Thank you for listening. I want you guys to give us your combined 23, the 22 plus the sub.
Definitely.
If you haven't done it already and you're watching on YouTube, drop it in the comments. Give me your reasoning. Give me the answers to all the other questions. Who would you like transported into the team from the 2013 squad? Who was stiff to miss out? What's different from that final series of that team, the last time we were in finals, 2013 to now? Do it all in the YouTube comments. If you're listening in podcast form, at Navy Blue Corner is the social media. Links to it are in the show notes and the description. Let me know. Slide into the DMs. That is all of that. But Lockie, this is the last time that we will speak on podcast before we beat the Sydney Swans. I know we've said on the last episode we recorded last night, your feelings on a scale of 1 to 10, your excitement. Where are you sitting right now? That's the last thing I want, and then we can end this.
Totally. Oh, I think after this chat, I'm probably, if a 10 is going to be the moment that the siren goes and we've won, I'm probably about an 8 now.
Yeah, very fair enough. I know I gave a weird scale that I scaled back to probably like a 7 or an 8. It's gone up. It just keeps every day. It's getting there.
It's going up every day.
Very, very pumped. But yes, that is going to wrap up this episode. Very keen to be back here the start of next week to talk about the next stage of finals because the Baggers have beaten the Swans. It was an absolute bloodbath at the MCG. Up the bloody Baggers. See you guys next time.